You're just a lowly farmer, that's all. My sister's words hung in the air like a slap. Everyone laughed, my parents, my brother, even my aunt who once begged me for rent money. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, stood up from the Thanksgiving table, and quietly reached into my purse. A minute later, I had canceled every payment I had been making for the past 5 years. 72, zero in total mortgage assistance, tuition for my niece, medical insurance for my father. Gone. They didn't notice at first. But when the lights went out, the cards bounced, and the phone lines died, they realized something terrifying. The lowly farmer they laughed at was the one keeping their lives running. And I was done. Done growing things for people who only knew how to consume. Now, they'd have to survive without me. I wasn't always just a farmer. Back in college, I studied agricultural science because I loved the land, not because I lacked options. My friends took city jobs. I came back to Nebraska to revive my grandparents' forgotten land, acre by acre. I planted, harvested, repaired rusted irrigation lines, and built something real, tangible, livable. But to my family, my success didn't matter unless it came with a briefcase. They'd pat my head and say things like, "It's cute that you still grow things. You're the only one in the family who still works with their hands." They said it like it was a flaw. I didn't argue. I just showed up always with support. When my brother lost his job, I covered his rent for 6 months. When my sister's husband left, I bought groceries for her and my niece for nearly a year. When mom needed surgery, I maxed out a card to cover the insurance gap. No one asked where the money came from. They assumed I had nothing better to do. I remember one winter when the pipes burst at my parents' house. Everyone panicked until I drove over at 3 a.m., fixed it, and left before sunrise. No one said thank you. But a week later, my dad joked, "Well, at least she's good for plumbing." They all laughed. That kind of laughter where you're the punchline dressed up as a compliment stays with you. It settles in your bones like cold wind. I kept thinking, if I just keep helping, they'll eventually see me. But year after year, I faded into the background, like the soil under their feet used, needed, but never acknowledged. What hurt most wasn't the silence, it was the convenience. They loved what I did for them, not who I was. And when they wanted something, a tuition deposit, a fresh set of tires, help with taxes, they didn't ask politely. They texted. Short, clipped, transactional. "Can you cover this? I'll pay you back." They never did. But I said yes every time, because some foolish part of me still believed that loyalty meant staying, helping, carrying their burdens even when mine went ignored. I worked 14-hour days in the heat, sunburnt and exhausted, only to send money to people who'd rather die than say, "We're proud of you." Still, I stayed. Until that Thanksgiving dinner. Until one sentence, "You're just a lowly farmer," snapped something I had spent a lifetime trying to hold together. It didn't hurt. It clarified. And for the first time, I realized, they didn't see me. They never had. Thanksgiving had always been a performance. The table set just right, the turkey carved by my brother like he was royalty, my mother in pearls pretending everything was fine. Everyone came dressed in ego, not warmth. And every year, I played my role, the quiet one who brought pies, fixed the broken porch light, and paid for half the groceries without being asked. This year, I paid for all of it. The food, the florist, the seating rental, even the Uber for Aunt Marianne, who couldn't drive at night. No one noticed. Not until the toast. It was my brother, Mason, who stood up first, tall, confident, barely sober. "To the people who really keep this family going," he said, raising his glass. "To those who build legacies, not plant potatoes." Laughter erupted. My sister, Rachel, leaned in with a grin. "You're just a lowly farmer, that's all." The words hit me like spoiled milk, sir, but familiar. The kind you smell and realize you've known it was rotten all along. Everyone laughed. Even my father, who I once bailed out of debt. Even my mother, whose prescriptions I quietly covered last fall. Even Rachel, who I'd Venmo'd 800 just the week before for her daughter's tuition. No one looked at me. No one expected me to respond. And for a moment, I didn't. I sat still, let the sound of their laughter dissolve into background noise, like a radio I'd finally stopped trying to tune. Then I stood up slowly. My chair scraped against the tile. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't cry. Didn't beg them to see me. I just pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and tapped a few screens. One by one, I severed every line. The recurring payment on my parents' mortgage, Rachel's tuition auto-withdrawal, the shared Amazon Prime, Spotify, Netflix, the emergency fund account I'd set up in Dad's name. All of it. Gone. 72. Zero in total. Support deleted in less than a minute. Then I smiled, tucked my phone back in my pocket, and said, "You're right. I am just a farmer. Which means I know when to stop watering dead soil." The room fell silent. No one moved. No one laughed. And I walked straight past the leftovers, the good china, the people who had chewed me up for years and called it tradition. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I felt clean, like the kind of clean you feel after finally scrubbing a stain you thought you'd have to live with forever. It was the moment everything changed. Not because I walked away from them, but because, for the first time, I walked toward myself. The beauty of quiet exits is that no one notices until they feel the absence. The day after Thanksgiving, I woke at sunrise, as always. Fed the chickens, walked the pasture, checked the irrigation lines. And then I sat at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, laptop open, and began untangling myself from their lives. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. I logged into my accounts and began compiling a list. Not of debts but of all the things I'd given. The 18,000 I'd paid toward my parents' mortgage during the pandemic. The 12,000 Rachel never paid back for her divorce lawyer. The 1,200 yearly subscription to a family medical plan that only I funded. The 60 monthly Wi-Fi bill at my parents' place, which I'd quietly taken over 5 years ago after Dad forgot to pay it 3 months in a row. The emergency savings I set up in my name but tied to theirs. I had receipts. Every single one. I closed the shared credit card, froze the auto-pay tuition line for Rachel's daughter, removed my name as cosigner on Mason's truck lease. I didn't send a single warning. Didn't draft a dramatic message. Didn't post online. I just pulled the roots. They say farmers know how to grow, but we also know when something's sick below the surface. And my family tree? It was rotting in silence. I used to think that if I kept giving, they'd finally give back. But no matter how much water I poured, all I got was thorns. So I stopped. By Monday morning, my family's digital world began flickering. The Hulu account logged them out mid-show. Their Amazon cart showed, payment failed. Rachel called the school, only to hear, no tuition payment on file. The first text came at 10:12 a.m. "Hey Em, is our prime down? Weird." Then, "Hey, the mortgage account says you're not listed anymore. Are you doing okay? Just checking in." I didn't respond. It wasn't about revenge. It was about recovery. I had spent years keeping the lights on for people who couldn't even remember to say my name in a toast. And now, they were fumbling in the dark. Confused, exposed, dependent. But the truth? They always had been. They just didn't know it. Until the farmer they dismissed quietly walked away with the soil, the sun, and the seed. By Tuesday, the panic had turned from quiet confusion to frantic calls. I muted every one of them. I wasn't being cruel. I was being methodical. Because what they forgot was this: I didn't just send money. I built their systems. It was me who installed the solar inverter at Dad's house when the power bill spiked. Me who gifted Mom that programmable fridge she loved posting on Instagram. Me who paid for the smart thermostat, the doorbell cam, the water filter under the sink. all of it mine. So I drove there, mid-morning, unnoticed. The front door still used the smart lock I'd bought, one swipe on my phone, and the lock clicked open. No one was home. In under 30 minutes, I removed the inverter panel, disconnected the fridge from the cloud sink, factory reset the thermostat, and took the Wi-Fi hub with me, unscrewed the water filter, and left a sticky note. Filtered support removed. Then I opened the linen closet where they still kept the emergency supplies. I had quietly restocked every year and took back my contributions. The backup lanterns, thermal blankets, the solar power banks. It wasn't vengeance. It was a return. When I reached Rachel's apartment, I didn't go inside. I simply logged into the Nest camera app. I still had access to another forgotten gift, and disabled her front door cam with one click. Logged out. Erased history. The support wasn't just financial, it was infrastructural. I'd been their shadow architect. And now I was deconstructing what I'd built brick by brick, bite by bite. Next, I contacted the school Rachel's daughter attended. I had prepaid through the end of the semester, so I let it stand. But I pulled the donation I'd made under Rachel's name for the school library. The principal emailed me with concern. I replied, "Feel free to list it under my name moving forward. I'm the one who paid it." Then came the medical side. I contacted the insurance provider and removed all dependents under my employer-sponsored plan. The next renewal would not include them. I notified the pharmacy where I'd been paying for Mom's arthritis meds out of pocket. I told them to transfer the account to her. They asked if I wanted to leave a note. I said, "Just let her know her farmer daughter sends her best." By the end of the week, they were no longer just confused. They were scared because everything they assumed was just there was unraveling. Not violently. Not loudly. But completely. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a harvest. And I was simply collecting what was mine. By Friday, the silence broke. And it didn't break gently. It began with a message from my cousin Haley. "Hey, just saw something weird in the group chat. Are you okay?" Attached was a screenshot. My sister Rachel had written, "Emily's been off lately. I think she's having one of her breakdowns again." Then Mason chimed in. "She's always been sensitive. She takes things way too personally." Mom added, "Let's just give her space. Hopefully she'll come around." Give me space? They'd spent the last decade swallowing everything I gave, and now when I stopped suddenly I was the fragile one? That's how it always worked. When I gave, I was dependable. When I withdrew, I was dangerous. But they weren't just whispering among themselves now. They were constructing a new version of Mioni where I was unstable, irrational, ungrateful, and it was spreading. Saturday morning, I received a vague email at work from HR. "Hi, Emily. We received an anonymous tip suggesting you may be experiencing emotional distress. We're obligated to check in, hope everything's okay." Attached was a concern note. "Emily Dalton may be showing signs of instability. Sudden behavioral shifts, severing family ties, concerning." I traced the email's IP. It came from a library terminal in my hometown. I didn't need more proof. I saw it clearly now. They weren't sorry. They were afraid of being exposed. And in their fear, they chose smear. Not confrontation. Not apology. Character assassination. Then came the phone calls. Dozens. Blocked. Voicemails piling up, laced with guilt. "Emily, we're worried about you. You're scaring everyone. Please stop this nonsense." And finally from Mom. "What you're doing is cruel. Family is forever." That line. Family is forever. The rallying cry of manipulators, who never expected to be held accountable. They weren't trying to win me back. They were trying to recontain me. To fold me back into the role they were comfortable with. The helper. The quiet one. The one who fixes, without asking. But that version of me had been buried with last season's harvest. Now they were scrambling, trying to plug leaks in a story that no longer held water. And they hadn't even seen what was coming next. Because while they were busy rewriting the past, I was preparing to publish the truth. They showed up on a Sunday. I was in the greenhouse, pruning the last of the winter tomatoes when I saw the truck pull up. It was my father's Ford. Rachel was in the passenger seat, Mom in the back. They didn't call, didn't text. Just arrived uninvited like it was Easter brunch, and not the aftermath of a slow, intentional detachment. I didn't rush. I didn't hide. I took off my gloves, washed my hands, and walked out the front door like I'd been expecting them. They were already halfway up the porch steps when they froze. I didn't smile. Didn't invite them in. "You've got 5 minutes," I said. "Use them well." My mother blinked, eyes already glossy, like she had come rehearsed to cry. She stepped forward. "Emily, this has gotten out of hand. We're worried about you. You've always been the heart of this family." I laughed once. Soft. Hollow. "No. I was the fuel, Mom. You just kept driving." My father cleared his throat, jaw tense. "We don't know what this is really about, but we're family. We don't turn our backs on each other." I tilted my head. "No? Then explain why I was good enough to pay your bills, but not good enough for a seat at the table." Rachel spoke next, arms folded like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "You're throwing away your own blood? Over what? Pride?" I took a breath. Felt the wind shift through the silence. Then I stepped forward, just one step, and looked each of them in the eye. "You want to know what this is really about? Okay. It's about every time I fixed something and got told I was just doing my duty. It's about every dollar I gave that was met with silence. It's about how I made your lives livable, and all you ever gave me in return was a label, lowly farmer." Mom started crying harder now, like the noise would drown out the truth. "You let them talk about me like I was broken," I said, turning to her, "and you said nothing. You let them write me off as unstable when all I did was say no for the first time in my life." I turned to my father. "You taught me that love meant loyalty, obedience, self-sacrifice. But what you really meant was, be usefuler, be invisible." Then Rachel. "And you were the loudest. You laughed the hardest. But you forgot something, Rach. Farmers don't just grow. We remove. We burn fields to the ground when it's time to begin again." Silence. Rachel looked away first. My father blinked, as if seeing me clearly for the first time and not liking what he saw. Mom sobbed quietly into her scarf. And then, like a final seed planted, I added, "I didn't cut you off out of vengeance. I cut you off because I finally believed that I deserved peace." My father tried one last push. "We miss you." I shook my head. "No. You miss the version of me who didn't speak, didn't ask, didn't stop. You miss the silence." But I'm not silent anymore. I stepped back. "Your time's up." And then I closed the door. Not with a slam, not with fury, but with finality. They thought I'd stay quiet. Even after the confrontation, after the tears, the gaslighting, the last desperate plea, they still assumed I'd keep protecting their reputation, that I'd remain the silent daughter with the generous wallet and no voice. They forgot something fundamental. I didn't owe them protection anymore. I owed myself the truth. So I opened my laptop. I didn't write a sob story. I didn't post revenge. I wrote a statement. For those wondering why I've gone quiet, here's what silence was covering. Then I attached screenshots. A group chat where Rachel wrote, I was having another episode. An email traced to a library IP address trying to flag me as unstable to my employer. Banking records, tuition payments, monthly family plans, years of silent giving. The receipts from pharmacy orders in my name for medications I didn't take. The shared Amazon Prime history, showing everyone else's names, shipping addresses, none of it mine. I titled the post, Lowly, but not silent. It wasn't angry. It was clinical, clean, complete. Within an hour, I had 300 shares. Colleagues, former classmates, neighbors who had once looked past me. People remembered, people saw. Then I uploaded the doorbell camera footage, Mom standing on my porch, crying. Dad scowling behind her. Rachel yelling in the background. I blurred my own face not because I was ashamed, but because this wasn't about me anymore. It was about what they did when no one clapped. And then, the final upload. A folder labeled, Harvest Records. Inside, every invoice I'd covered. PayPal logs. Proof of account ownership. A legal form stating I had formally removed myself from their co-signed obligations. I wasn't just cutting ties. I was closing accounts emotionally and literally. By sundown, I had messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. A high school teacher wrote, "I always knew there was more to you, Emily. Thank you for showing it." A cousin messaged, "You didn't destroy the family. You exposed what it really was." Even Rachel's ex-husband commented, "She treated you like an assistant, not a sister. You deserved better." It wasn't about attention. It was about validation, the kind that doesn't ask for applause, just accuracy. And slowly, the family fortress crumbled. Mom deleted her Facebook the next morning. Dad's company page was set to private by noon. Rachel, once a proud momfluencer, posted a cryptic story. Sometimes people twist your kindness. And then ghosted the app entirely. But none of them reached out again. They knew the spotlight was no longer theirs to control. Because the thing about farming is, we work in silence. But when the storm breaks, everyone sees what was buried. And the moment the truth sprouted from the soil, they had no choice but to watch it grow. In the weeks that followed, there were no more messages. No cryptic emails. No guilt-laced voicemails. No unexpected arrivals in my driveway. Just silence. But this silence wasn't like the one before, the kind that echoes with shame, hoping someone will call your name. This silence was peace. And for the first time in years, I didn't dread it. I embraced it. I tended to my crops. I restained the barn. I bought new soil and planted a line of sunflowers by the eastern fence. Every shovel of dirt felt like a ritual, not burying pain, but planting space. I started going to town more, made friends at the farmer's market. One woman named Laura, a retired nurse, brought me peach cobbler just because I looked like someone who's learning to breathe again. And I was. I even took a weekend trip, me first in over a decade. Left the farm in the care of my assistant, packed a bag, and drove to Colorado. No phone calls, no expectations, no emergencies to fix. Just me. Myself. And the version of Emily I hadn't met since I was 18. One morning, I opened an old box in the attic. Inside were cards I'd written as a kid. "Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you for everything, Dad. You're the best sister, Rachel." They were covered in glitter, stickers, and sincerity. I held them in my hands and whispered softly, not with bitterness, but finality. I meant every word back then. But now I mean something else. I choose me. I didn't burn the cards. I didn't throw them away. I simply placed them back in the box, closed the lid, and walked downstairs into the sun. That was the difference now. I didn't need to erase the past to move on. I just refused to let it define my future. Because the truth is, I didn't stop being family. They stopped being mine. And in choosing distance, I didn't choose hate. I chose health. I chose boundaries. I chose soil that finally fed me back. They used to call me a lowly farmer. And maybe I am. But there's power in planting your own peace. And this time, I'm the one who gets to harvest it.